We are on the second video for section 7.4 through 7.5. I guess we're on 7.5 now. We finished with 7.4. On this, we're solving equations, and these equations have more steps to them than the ones that we solved previously in section 7.4. So on this first one, notice that we have negative 6 times 3a minus 7. This means that we need to multiply. It's called distributive property. Negative 6 times 3a, right? So that's negative 18a. And negative 6 times negative 7 would make that plus 42, and it's equal to 21. From there, we will subtract the 42 so that we can isolate the variable term of negative 18a. Negative 18a equals negative 21. Be careful with your signs and make sure that you keep the negative there when it needs to be. To solve, we divide by negative 18 on both sides of the equation. Now that simplifies. Both of those are divisible by 3. They're both negative, so that makes a positive. And we get 7/6. Now you can write that as 1 1/6, and it would be perfectly fine to do so. If you put that on your calculator, 21 divided by 18, it would probably put it in decimal form, but if you put it in using your fraction key, 21 over 18, then you most likely would get the 1 1/6. It depends on the calculator. Notice on number 9, we have variables on both sides. So we need variables together on one side. Like terms have to be together. So here we subtract 16n. It's going to leave me with 6n equals negative 18. That, since it's 6 times n, we divide to solve. And n is negative 3. Now don't forget that you can always check your work. So if we wanted to check the second one, we would say 22 times negative 3 equals 16 times negative 3 minus 18. So that would be negative 66 equals negative 48 minus 18. And that does equal negative 66, so it checks. And that's our solution for that equation. Here are some more equations to solve. Now, notice on this first one it says 7 minus 11 times 2z plus 3 equals 18. You don't take 7 minus 11 to begin with because it's 7 minus 11 times the 2z plus 3. We keep the 7. We multiply through by negative 11, right, on both of these terms in the parentheses. Let's scoot that down just a little bit. So that's a negative 22z minus 33 equals 18. We have like terms, 7 and negative 33. We're going to add those together. So negative 22z minus 26 equals 18. And then to solve this, we're going to isolate the variable term by adding 26 to both sides. So negative 22z equals, when we add those together, we get 44. And then divide by negative 22, because that's negative 22 times z, and z is negative 2. So quite a few steps to get there. You just want to be careful with your signs, be careful with your multiplication, be sure you're combining like terms and all of those things. All right, on this next one, we're going to distribute a 2, so 2 times 2x, 2 times negative 5, And then this is 6x minus 5x minus 1. That's like multiplying through by a negative 1. So that would be negative 5 plus x. And then we need to simplify because we do have like terms on this side. We will have 7x minus 5. Now notice we have variable terms on both sides and we have constant terms or just numbers on both sides. We need the x's together on one side and numbers on the other side. I'm going to start with subtracting 7x on both sides. And then I'm going to add the 10 so that I isolate the negative 3x. And that equals 5 now when I take negative 5 plus 10. Last step, divide by negative 3, and x is negative 5/3. So then we've got that completed. Now we go on to the formulas. So really all the things that we've been doing with the equations is leading to solving formulas for a certain variable, because that would be a real life application, something that you might need to do on the job if you use a certain formula, is to solve it for one of the variables. When you look at this first formula, h equals d minus r divided by 2, we could actually solve this for 3 variables. It's already solved for h, so that's one way we could solve. We can solve for d, which is what we're going to do, or we could solve for r. So there's a number of ways to go with this. But we are going to solve for d. All right, first step, we're going to multiply both sides by 2 because we need to get rid of our denominator in order to get to the numerator, which has the d, right, or the d minus r. If we multiply by the denominator, that eliminates that denominator because it is the same as multiplying by 2 over 1, right? So I'll mark that out. 2 goes into 2 one time, and then I would just be multiplying by a 1. So we've gotten rid of our denominator. We have 2h equals d minus r. We want the d by itself, so we add r to both sides, and then that gives me the formula 2h plus r equals d, or we can write it as d equals 2h plus r. And generally we like to see the equation written that way. I was trying to erase, it's not cooperating. All right. And that's our formula. Now, if you were trying to find d, this would be great because all you have to do is take 2 times whatever h is, add the r, you've got it, and much easier than it was in the original format that it was written in. Okay, let's look at this next formula. So this is a volume formula. It's actually the volume of a cylinder, I believe. We're going to solve for h. This is pi times r squared times h. So that means we can divide by everything except the h, and that way we can solve for it. Okay, so we're gonna divide by pi r squared on both sides. So h is equal to v divided by pi r squared. And it's solved. So when it's all multiplication, you can divide by however many terms or however many variables are there, and just don't divide by the one that you're solving for. All right, number 14. On this one, we are solving it for r. I'm I'm going to write it down here so we can have more space. So first step would be, I had to pause, somebody came through the door, so if you heard anything, that's what was happening. Okay, so on this, the first thing I want to do is subtract 0.05. So h minus 0.05 equals r divided by 2. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And in this case, we actually have to make sure that we multiply everything on the other side by the 2, not just the h, so be careful there. Distribute the 2, and that gives me 0.1, and on this side is my r, so now I have it solved for r. And you know, as I've done on a lot of these, you can write it this way if you want. Okay, number 15, we're solving for v, and we must get rid of the r first because we have a v in the numerator and we've got to have a way to get to that v, and that means get rid of or eliminate, cancel your denominator. Multiply by r. All right, I'm going to cross that out, and so we have IR equals E plus V. And then to solve for V, we simply subtract E on both sides, always on both sides. So V equals I times R minus E. So I think I have just, let's see how many problems I have left. I only have a couple, but I'm not going to be able to get those done in 3 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, and I'll just put the last 2 problems on the lesson on the next video.